Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and I've got a special surprise for you. That's right, an Xbox news video fresh out of the oven. Are you ready? Because we got some steamy bits of news to get into this week. Starting off with the Phil Spencer interview, which was recently conducted, and that very interview, I gotta say, got into some topics that I didn't really expect, like the current relationship between Activision and Xbox and how that's changing based off actions within Activision throughout the last year or so. Not only that, but we're going to be talking about the sales for Series X and S and how they may be in line with PlayStation 5, which is a console that is just rolling along. Last but certainly not least, there was a pretty significant patch announced for Halo Infinite, which has been having a lot of issues with matchmaking that no one's really talking about, and now it's finally going to be fixed here in the coming month or so. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. If you're new here and you like Xbox news and information, consider hitting that subscribe button. With that, let's sit down and talk about Xbox, starting off with the console sales numbers. So this article comes from Forbes, where they say estimates indicate Xbox Series X and S may be selling nearly as well as PlayStation 5. To me, this came as somewhat of a surprise. We knew the Series S did really well over the holiday break because it was readily available. It demands completely different parts from that of, say, the Xbox Series X, so that's not as readily available on the shelves. With that said, I didn't think that these two combined would start to really make headway to PlayStation 5 level numbers. But when you hear what Phil Spencer said in a recent interview, it starts to paint a picture of just how well Xbox is doing, and it makes sense because they're, guess what, delivering games. You've also got Game Pass on top of it. You got a good value proposition there. Makes sense, right? So let's read. Phil Spencer talked about Xbox sales this past year to New York Times, and while he didn't give any specific numbers, he made it clear this is a record. Quote, supply is actually as big as it's ever been. It's that demand is exceeding the supply for all of us. At this point, we've sold more of this generation's Xboxes, which is Series X and S, than we had any previous version of Xboxes, end quote. Even if Spencer isn't supplying numbers, Nico Partners analyst Daniel Ahmad says that based on past Xbox One and Xbox 360 year one numbers, which is 12 million and 10.4 million respectively, that means Spencer is saying that the Series X and S have shipped at least 12 million units, though how many above that is unclear. When you look at the PS5 numbers, you're actually going to see that this could be neck and neck with that console, which is good news for everybody. It's not to create a competition between these two, but rather to symbolize that gaming in general is doing well. PlayStation fans are happy, excited, and willingly going out and getting their console. Xbox fans are happy and excited and willingly going out and getting that console. And guess what? There is finally seemingly going to be a cross-pollination all of the PS2 original Xbox and GameCube generation where everyone's doing well, doing unique and exciting things, and we can all get in on the fun together. So to me, this news is great. I love to see that Xbox is doing well, but I also love to see PlayStation's doing well, and we already know Nintendo's doing fantastic. So to me, this is great because we're going to get different angles of gaming everywhere since they all have drastically different game plans. So big thumbs up for me on that news. Next up, I want to talk about Xbox's and Activision's relationship. For those who are unaware, Activision in the last year has been hit with a freight train of allegations depicting a really toxic workplace environment, to put it simply. Not only that, but a lot of these claims have been legitimized through official investigations, employees leaving and speaking on their work experience, and so on and so forth. It's a really ugly situation, and since then, Activision's had to try to explain themselves a number of times and has failed to do so and get out of their own way because they are just in that much of a rut at this point in time. So much to go over that I would be here for a whole 2 videos worth talking about what has happened at Activision. But long story short, there's a lot that's transpired, so much so that we've seen companies across the board, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox all step out and say that they denounce what is happening at Activision. Now, this is what happens when you step out as a big company and denounce these things, because one person made the move, so the rest of them made the moves, and people are saying, well, talk is cheap. Where's the action? Xbox has claimed they have taken action, but they haven't specified what. And we're going to talk about this, and we're starting to see with things like, I think of Tencent and their gradual stakes in gaming and stuff like this, that there's a cross-pollination, there's a crossing of wires here between ethics, politics, and now gaming, where these conversations are never fun to have personally, especially as a content creator, because you know that with most conversations, no one will be pleased especially these types of topics. So let's just read, get into it, share our thoughts. So this article comes from Windows Central Gaming. Phil Spencer says Xbox has changed some things about working with Activision. Quote, "The work we do specifically with a partner like Activision is something that obviously I'm not going to talk publicly about," Spencer explained when asked about his prior comments. "We have changed how we do certain things with them, and they're aware of that. But this isn't about, for us as Xbox, virtue shaming other companies. Xbox's history is not spotless," end quote. Spencer notably referenced an incident at GDC 2016 in which scantily clad dancers were hired at a party. Spencer added that, quote, "At Xbox, I know who I'm accountable for here in terms of the business and the operations. It's my teams here, my management chain, and that's the thing that we continue to focus on is to try to grow," end quote. This is a situation that I think is dicey because I do think personally there had to be some type of response to Activision, since it's clear Bobby Kotick has been leading this company in a very unhealthy direction despite how financially successful they are. That's the main reason they're holding on to them. So it's up to companies like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo to put pressure on shareholders and be like, we're going to hurt you in the wallet now. I would assume that would make the most sense if you're not going to take action. But this is what happens when you step out and say, I denounce this. People ask for action, and we don't know to what level that action was over at Xbox or any of these companies for that matter. So it could be something as small as a little slap on a wrist. Oh, we're changing our scale of deals with you to a 1% difference. Now they've technically changed how they work with Activision in response to things, and they can officially say that without necessarily doing something significant. And their hesitation to talk about it, I find interesting because Xbox as a company has had zero hesitation speaking out about a number of public issues. So why specifically this one? What Phil Spencer's saying is something I agree with. It's just I don't know if it's necessarily reflected in the company's public communications. I agree in the idea that virtue shaming or virtue signaling can be kind of annoying because everyone's flawed, everyone's made mistakes, and we're here to grow, right? We're here to become better people. And a lot of times the internet, not even a lot of times, almost all the time, the internet never enables that. You make one mistake, you're done, right? In the case of Activision, it's a significant chain of mistakes where I'm like, you're not really virtue shaming a company that has gone through a long list of borderline crimes in many ways and has gone unscathed for a long period of time by listing out what you did to them. But that said, I understand the intent here, and in some respects, I do agree, but it's one of those weird gray area discussions where you can't really pick a side, and that's something else that the internet likes, just picking a side. But still interesting to see Xbox has taken action here. I am curious to know what it is, and I also want to know if any other companies have, because again, that's how these companies respond. They don't care until the wallet starts to hurt a little bit, and then they make some significant changes. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's talk about our last bit of news. This has to deal with Halo Infinite, which is getting a big, pardon the pun, team battle patch. So let's talk about it. Halo Infinite big team battle patch in the works, along with February update to address cheating and more. This comes from GameSpot, where they write, in a blog post, community director Brian Gerard said the team at 343 is now, quote, largely back in action, end quote, and that the current focus is providing a fix for big team battle issues that have been affecting the game for weeks now. Quote, as you know, we've been dealing with some frustrating issues with big team battle nearing since launch, and despite a few attempts at solving and mitigating before holiday break, we were not able to get this fixed, end quote, Gerard said. Quote, while big team battle has remained playable, there are matchmaking issues that increase with more players and large fire teams with a low chance of successfully joining in a game together, end quote. 343 assembled a strike force that worked on the big team battle issues over the holiday break, and this team has now identified a fix for the core issue affecting the mode. The update entered a testing phase last week, and so far it's looking positive, Gerard said. The update will go into certification next, and if it's approved for release, it'll be released sometime after, though 343 doesn't have an estimated time of arrival just yet for when that might be. Quote, "We are actively triaging and still working to get as much as we can into this February update while still ensuring no negative impacts or regressions to other parts of the game," end quote, Gerard said. 343 is focusing on big team battle fixes right now because of the broad scope of impact of all players. The studio remains focused on cheating and general wonkiness with Halo Infinite's ranked multiplayer, but big team battle is the current priority. So this is something that has been plaguing Halo for a while and hasn't really been discussed a lot, which again, as I've said with a lot of Halo's issues, is kind of a testament to how much fun people are having with it and how much they're just enjoying it. For me, some of those issues started to push me off the game a little bit. I still sign in and play every now and then, but for example, I have a big group of friends on Discord and we all like to get together and play big team battle every now and then, and we really weren't able to do that with this bug, so it started to push us away from it because for me, I'm not always looking for the Sweatfest and ranked, even though that is the place I like to play the most. It's not what I'm always looking for. I sometimes want to hop into big team battle with a large group of friends and have these big dynamic moments occur. That was not really, I don't want to say possible, but it wasn't consistent. And this branches into a number of things we read here. Cheating was a big thing in Halo Infinite. I know that some of the aim assist in this game was broken, which is a pretty big thing for Halo Infinite, especially on consoles. So there was a number of problems here with this game that for me, I just went, let me wait for a patch. I've already put like 50, 60 hours into it, including the campaign, and I just grinded it out, plus a bunch of Halo games before that, probably putting almost 200 hours into just Halo in general, leading up into Infinite's launch, where it's like, okay, I think I can comfortably take a little break while they fix things here. So it led to me pulling out a little bit. It's good to know that they're fixing it. This is kind of the awkwardness of releasing your game in December, around November, is the holidays are there. These employees do absolutely deserve to rest. We've seen how it affects a game like Battlefield in a very negative way, where they keep taking vacations and they kept taking time off, and the fans are like, we get it, but like, we need to know how you're going to fix this and when you're going to fix it. So releasing in this time period is kind of dangerous. And I feel like 343 is sort of glided under the shadow of the very broken Battlefield 2042, which is still a damn shame because that game looks so good heading into launch, to see how everything's transpired there. Not to say that 343 has released a broken mess. One of the best parts of it, it is pretty technically sound, but in the multiplayer part, things like custom games, stuff like big team battle, it started to unwind and unravel a little bit, and you're starting to see the criticisms get a bit louder. Of course, they came to a head right before the holiday break, where you could see some tension with the community, and actually Brian Gerard, funny enough, who we were just reading some quotes from. But now, here we are at that refresh period where you can see there's a bit of calmness, like, yeah, here, we're doing this patch, here's when it's coming, don't worry, we got this. And just like Brian said, hopefully this does not lead to more issues with Halo Infinite, right? We don't want to see the Ubisoft effect, I like to call it, where they release a patch and something else in the game breaks. So let's cross our fingers and hope that doesn't occur. Looking forward to getting back into Halo Infinite with the launch of this patch. Let me know what you think of all of this Xbox news in the comments down below. That's all I've got for you in today's video between the Activision relationship, which I think will be an interesting discussion. Of course, we're going to talk about the sales numbers and then what we have here for Halo Infinite. Fire away. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.